So, very well then. We give praise, esteem, and honor to Yahuwah Elohim in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. Bless his Kadesh Shabbat. And here again to give esteem to his name and prayerfully a word to go forth that we might gain some understanding the way of salvation, that we might draw nearer and nearer unto him. So, with that being said, John chapter 5 and verse 39, search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and there they which testify of me. Now come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you, that you have not the love of Elohim in you. Do not think that I will accuse you. I come in my Abba's name, you receive me not. If another shall come in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe which receive honor one of another, and seek not the honor that comes from Elohim only? Do not think that I accuse you. Abba, there's one that accused you, even Moses, in whom you trust. But had you believed Moses, you would have believed me, for he wrote it. But if you believe not his writings, how should you believe my words? Let's take a trip. Proverbs chapter 12. We're in Proverbs chapter 12. Back on what we've been on. We give thanks to Yahuwah for the completion of honoring him during tabernacles. That is where it went forth. That Yahuwah saw fit for us to have food to eat. And prayerfully, it was a joyous occasion in the hearts of all. And if not, that's unfortunate for you. I've been keeping tabernacles now. When I came in the word, I had missed Passover and didn't know how to calculate Pentecost. So the first piece I ever kept was trumpets. Been doing that for 10 years. Never gets old. Never does. So, but now we're continuing in what we've been dealing with in Proverbs, and prayerfully by the grace of Yahushua, we stay true to that to a certain extent. But Proverbs chapter 12 and verse 26 is where we'll begin this evening. Oh, I'm sorry. Before I do that, let me get Psalms 100. Forgive me. I was looking at this earlier. I felt like sharing this. Psalms 100.
Yes.
So, Psalms 100. Make a joyful noise unto Yahuwah, all you lands. Serve Yahuwah with gladness. Come before his presence with singing. Know you that Yahuwah, he is Elohim. It is he that have made us, and not we ourselves. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. And into his gates with thanksgiving, and into his courts with praise. Be thankful unto him, and bless his name. For Yahuwah is good, his mercy is everlasting, and his truth endure to all generations. Now, I made mention to something that, say his truth endure to all generations. You come over here to Deuteronomy 12. I had said this here the other night, and it had just, brother, I know they have a children's class where they congregate, but they have a lot older children. But the other day it had hit me, like for the longest period of time, all these kids, they've been babies. And then they hit me like, they're not babies anymore. Y'all willing, prayerfully, we'll have a 7-year-old next month. We got a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old, 3 4-year-olds, a couple of 3-year-olds. And so we have to set aside time. That stuff won't be recorded, just so you know. For those of you who are not present here physically, we can work out something, whether through FaceTime or Facebook video calling for your children. I'm speaking mainly about Tavon and Jessica's children and Trina's children. You know what I'm saying? That they can participate. Because y'all children are a little older than them. They're not babies anymore, so it's time to begin the process of diligently imparting to them the word of Yahuwah. Now, the main reason why that is so important, because this is, when you deal with learning and educating, you know, people say they have different learning styles and different ways of learning. But I want you to understand something with Yahuwah's word. Yahuwah's word in the classical sense of learning is strictly auditory, because he says faith come by hearing and hearing come by the word. It's not nothing that you necessarily can see. It's not supposed to be interactive. It's not supposed to be entertaining. That is not the purpose of it, because your ancestors didn't have any of these comforts that we quote unquote have now, which breeds laziness when it comes to the imparting of Yahuwah's word. Yahuwah's word can only be received by preaching, and preaching can only come out the mouth of a man, and it has to enter into the ear of the person, and it has to enter into the heart once it enters into the ear. And that's it. That's the only way that it can be imparted. For sure. That's the only way that it can be imparted. Can't be imparted any other way. You know what I'm saying? It has to be direct instruction and hearing of the word. So let's look at Deuteronomy 12. Make sure I'm in the right place. We read this not too long ago, but I have to make sure I'm in the right place. I don't think I'm in the right place. I do not think I'm in the right place. I might just need, this might be Deuteronomy 11 that I require. And it is. Deuteronomy chapter 11. And 18. It says, therefore, shall you lay up these my words in your heart and in your soul, and bind them for a sign upon your hand, that they may be as frontlets between your eyes. Notice he said that you need to lay up these my words in your heart. Pause. I want you to come over and look at something in Proverbs 3. And this is the reason why I say this, that it's an auditory thing. Y'all know that faith come by hearing and hearing come by the word. Y'all know that's what Paul said. You know Paul got it from Job 42. And if you're not familiar with Job 42, then I will grab that for you right after I read this Proverbs 3:1. I just want you to listen to what he said in some of the things that we looked at as we went forth through Proverbs already. But Proverbs 3:1 says, my son, forget not my Torah. So do not forget my instructions, but let your heart keep my commandments. So notice, in order for you to get that instruction, the Father has to impart it. The only reason why I'm going through this here is to reinforce the fact that there is no other way than the word can be imparted but by preaching. I don't care what anybody says and all that other stuff, where they come in here, this is what Yahuwah says. So in order to teach the children, you have to tell it to them. And in reality, if you're not familiar, Deuteronomy means the rehearsing or the repeating or repetition. With anything that you have to learn, it has to be repeated. So it has to be repetitive. You have to mention it consistently and regularly. And you can't get frustrated because you have to keep telling them the same thing. Because we're grown people. And you have to be told the same thing according to the word. So, and the reason why I'm mentioning this is, and I'm going to grab the verse for that in a minute, is because we have to, if we sit back and we look at that, Yahuwah is our Abba. This is your Father. Then your Father understands the movements of his children. So we're supposed to be able to have his same mind to understand that when dealing with your own children, because the point of the matter is we're supposed to be becoming like Elohim. So that means you have to begin to take on and have his perspective on all things. On all things. Remember, we just read Wednesday night, he said, receive instruction and refuse it not. He kept telling you to hearken. You notice that the word Shema is used so much because he's telling you to hear. And this is why the word has to be imparted through audible means, to hear. That's the only way that it can be imparted. It can't be imparted with a coloring book. It can't be imparted with a movie. It can't be imparted with a video. It can't be imparted with music. It can only be imparted by the audible speaking of the word, because that's how Yahuwah designed it. I have nothing to do with that. That's why he say they'll be saved by the foolishness of preaching. The preaching of the stake is foolishness to those who don't believe. So we have to understand that and look at, because when it comes into the ear, it goes into the heart. The words that you hear go into your heart. Now, what you do with them when they enter into your heart is contingent on the individual who heard. This is why Yahushua said repeatedly, he that have an ear, let him hear. Now, notice he said that we are of Yahuwah's. That's what Psalms 100 said. We're of Yahuwah's. We didn't make ourselves. So every one of us is here by the grace and mercy of Yahuwah. And we should always move with a strong sense of urgency, because you are not promised to be here tomorrow. And it is pride and arrogancy which makes us believe that you have time. You have to treat literally every day, because the book tells you that, to not boast on tomorrow, because you do not know what the next day will bring. You have no idea. So while today is today, as the text say, go after Yahuwah with every ounce of your soul. Do not get complacent. Do not get comfortable, because you could leave here. And if you leave here without the Ruach, you're going to have a problem. Look at Proverbs 4:1. Listen what he tells you. He say, hear you sons, the instruction or the correction or the rebuke of a father, and attend to no understanding. For I give you good doctrine, forsake you not my Torah. For I was my Abba's son, tender, only beloved in the sight of my mother. He taught me also, and said unto me, let your heart retain my words, keep my commandments, and live. Get wisdom, get understanding, forget it not, neither decline from the words of my mouth. Shalom. Neither decline from the words of my mouth. We're just looking at the protocol. Now we're using small children as an example of how Yahuwah deals with us, who says we're adults, but even in his eyesight, he does not see grown people. He sees his sons and his daughters. That's what he sees, period. Obedient sons and daughters do not decline from the words that their parents gave them. This is what Proverbs 4 is saying. And this is what Yahuwah has been trying to impart. And I've been telling y'all for years. This is why he uses the advent of a father and his son, and a man and his wife, because these are means for you to understand his plan. Because you can relate to either one. There's not anyone on this earth that cannot relate to the relationship between a father and his son. Period. You know what I'm saying? Now, whether your father was a good father or not is a whole nother dynamic. But nevertheless, come back to Psalms. Let me get the verse that I require. Because see, we was talking about this yesterday, and I'm going to reiterate this again to y'all tomorrow. But you should never let a child frustrate you. And the reason why you should never let a child frustrate you, because you are intellectually and emotionally and spiritually superior to them. And you should take that into account when dealing with adults. Someone that you know that you are spiritually someone that you know that you are spiritually, mentally, and emotionally superior, then there's no way that they should frustrate you. Because since you know that you are superior to them, you should have the ability to navigate around them. The minute you allow someone that you are superior to frustrate you, at that point, you have just acknowledged that they are superior to you. Hold on, man. Doggone verse I won't. It's not manifesting itself. Give me a moment. Well, that's just unfortunate. I can't recall. There's a verse in Psalms, he says, but he knows our frame, that we are but flesh. And he also knows that the thoughts of men are vain. See, when you sit back and you know that, and I'm going to show you why at that point. Here we go. Psalms 103. Psalms 103. That's what I was. Psalms 103. And we've read this before. I want you to come to Psalms 103. I want you to look at verse 8. I want you to look at verse 8. And matter of fact, I'm going to grab one of these words. So let me switch over. Psalms 103 and 8. Yahuwah is merciful and gracious, slow to anger, plenteous in mercy. Now, when we look at this, and again, this is the person we're supposed to emulate. So your Father in heaven is slow to anger, plenteous in mercy, merciful and gracious. So there's a level of patience and long suffering that he possesses. Of course, you know that those are fruits of the Ruach. So that's when you sit back and we go back to what we were discussing during booths, during Sukkot, during tabernacles, during ingathering. That when you're that good ground and that seed falls in that good and honest heart and you hear the word and you do it, then you begin to manifest the fruits of the character of the individual who gave the word in the first place. And this is the objective. Nevertheless, he will not always chide, neither will he keep his anger forever. He has not dealt with us after our sins, nor rewarded us according to our iniquities. That's something to consider. He hasn't dealt with you according to your sins, nor did you get according to what your lawlessness deserved. Now, I want you to sit back and pause upon that when you think about yourself. When you think about yourself as a child, when you disobeyed your parents, did they deal with you after your disobedience? Did they reward you according to your gross and what's the word I'm looking for? Defiance. And then as you became an adult, did Yahuwah deal with you according to what you were out here doing? This is the part of where his mercy comes in at, of what we were discussing last week. And this is why this is a weightier matter of Torah. And this is why he tells you not to take vengeance. And this is why he tells you to do certain things to your enemies and to be just and to be merciful to the just and the unjust. Because again, this is a manifestation of his character. This comes in when you begin to grab the word and to grab the nuance and to grab the things that are there, the things that people don't like to read, the things that people read over and overlook because you're reading the text from the wrong perspective. You're not reading the text or hearing the word for the purpose of becoming like Yahuwah, understanding his mind, his wisdom, his understanding, so you can take it and become like it. You're reading it so you can be filled with knowledge of which you're not using. You're reading it so you could boast in your flesh, or you're reading it in order to debate or slice up other people. All of that is vain and a ticket to hell. And when I say hell, I mean the grave. And then you go into the grave, and then you're not filled with his ruach, and now you have to stand before this man on judgment, and your name wouldn't be written in heaven. And that is a perilous place to be. Because at the end of the day, he said he made man upright. So he made man to be like himself. We know this because the Torah tells us he made us in his image and in his likeness. So he wants us to emulate him and to be like him. So that's why he said, well, look at these people who have this law. And they're so wise and understanding, who have an Elohim so near to them. So when you have the words of Yahushua in you, then this is a person who's wise. It's a person who has understanding, and Elohim is near to him. And it's because you took the time. I was talking about this a little while ago. Most of the people I knew when I first started in the word, they were my peers. They weren't ardent Hebrews, this, that, and the third. These were my literal peers, men who I committed crimes with. You understand? Seriously, save one. These were men who I committed crimes with. And each one of their perspectives for reading the word was different from mine. We'll probably take a look at this here too, because I keep telling y'all this over the course of years. Faith is the greatest thing that you could ever receive. And I can still recall that when the first time that I heard the word, when I heard Deuteronomy 28:68 came in my mind as the word is true. So I don't know what everybody else's perspective and thoughts was when that entered into that, when they heard that for the first time. But that's the first thought that clicked into my head, is that the word is true. I hadn't heard nothing else about nothing. I said, this word is true. I believe every word of it. Hadn't seen or heard, I didn't know nothing about the book was about Yahusha. I ain't know nothing about nothing. I ain't heard no Torah, nothing. I just knew the whole word is true. If this is true, then I know all of it's true. That can only come from Yahuwah. Like you read the book of Acts, when Paul sat down with that woman, I believe her name was Lydia, but I could be mistaken. And he began to preach the word that said that Elohim opened her heart to the hearing of the word. That's why the word has to be preached. Matter of fact, since I said that, let me grab it for you. Acts chapter 16. We still holding Deuteronomy 11. And Psalms 103. And this is just a setup for something else. So bear with me. And I was correct. Her name is Lydia. Acts 16 and 13. And on the Shabbat, Acts 16 and 13. My apologies. Acts 16 and 13. And on Shabbat, we went out of the city by a riverside where prayer was wont to be made. We sat down and spake unto the women which resorted thither. And a certain woman named Lydia, seller of purple of the city of Thyatira, which worshiped Elohim, heard us, whose heart the Lord opened, that she attended unto the things which were spoken of Paul. And she was immersed, and her household, and she besought us, saying, if you judge me to be faithful to the Lord, come into my house and abide there. And she constrained us. The only way that could have happened for that woman to do anything. She said, if you judge me to be faithful, she said, I would desire for you to be here. Now, if you got common sense, you know full well why she made that statement. But look at what occurred. It said, it's whose heart Yahuwah opened. See, you should know that from Torah because it said he hardened Pharaoh's heart. Now, y'all know full well that if she attended unto the things which were spoken of Paul, Paul was preaching the gospel to her. He preached Yahusha to her. This is why the word has to be preached, because it's the only way, because the only way the word can enter into your heart is if you hear it. That's the only way that it can get there. It can't get there through the means of communication that they use now. And y'all probably don't even realize, and this is my opinion, I don't have no facts for this. These people probably use these other means of cartoons and books, also clearly to monetize the word. You know what I'm saying? But it means for you not to receive it. Like I told y'all in the past, making the word of salvation for entertainment. But you can't receive it in that fashion because that is not how Yahuwah ordained it. He ordained it for it to be preached because you have to hear it for it to enter into your heart. See, come over here to Romans 10. I guess I get that Job 42 right now. Get to Romans 10. We ain't going to read down to what I've already mentioned in Romans 10. We just want to read Romans 10 and about verse 8. Matter of fact, make it verse 6. We hold in Deuteronomy 11, Psalms 103, and from the Romans chapter 10, we'll go to Job 42. Romans 10 and 6. But the righteousness which is of faith speak on this wise. Say not in your heart, who shall ascend into heaven? That is to bring a Mashal down from above. Who shall ascend into the deep? That is to bring up a Mashal again from the dead. But what saith? The word is near you, even in your mouth and in your heart. That is the word of faith which we preach. That if you shall confess with your mouth the Lord Yahusha and shall believe in your heart, the Elohim have raised him from the dead, you shall be saved. For with the heart man believe unto righteousness, and with the mouth confession is made unto salvation. So he said that you can't believe in the heart unless you heard it. That's the only way that it can be imparted. It can't be imparted any other way as far as salvation is concerned. Now, you can impart it any way you want, but as salvation is concerned, it can't be conveyed but in the way that Yahuwah intended it to be conveyed. Whether it be rap songs or singing, praise and worship, if individuals like to call it, that is just simply for the praise and esteem of Yahuwah. That is not for the edification of the body, because that's not what Yahuwah ordained. That's why I read Psalms 100. He said, praise him with singing. That is what it is for. It is to praise him. And he is worthy of every single solitary bit of it without question. You understand? He is worthy of praise every minute, every moment of the day. But that is not the purpose of it, indeed, for edification. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about edification. We're talking about the word of faith being imparted. That has to be preached. That has to be preached. So, and indeed, and I just said that because don't think that we knocking anybody who rhymes for Yahuwah, blessed be them, and continue in that word, and let his name be extolled and praised, and his righteousness be made manifest. Because when you're doing it, you're really praising him, you're honoring him. You know what I'm saying? And for those who choose to sing, you know what I'm saying? I don't know nothing about no praise dancing because I don't have no book for that. But you know what I'm saying? If that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But if you want to sing to Yahuwah, sing. Ain't nobody gonna stop you. You ain't doing nothing wrong. You just bringing honor to his name, which he is owed. And why is he owed it? Because he bought your black behind with his blood. That's why he owed it. Because he made you a tabernacle in heaven without hands. That's why he owed it. Because you belong to him. You need him. He don't need you. He made you. You didn't make yourself. Nevertheless, Job 42. 42 and 1. Job 42 and 1. Then Job answered Yahuwah and said, I know that you can do everything, and that no thought can be withholden from you. Who is he that hide counsel without knowledge? Therefore I've uttered that I understood not things too wonderful for me, which I knew not. Here, now he's telling you to shop. He's telling you to do it. I beseech you, and I will speak, and I will demand of you, and declare you unto me. Now I'm gonna just see what words is used there, because that's just what type of guy I am. We look at here, and it's Shema. When he said, I beseech and I will speak, he sent Debar. And when he said declare, that's Yada. And y'all should know that. That means to know. Now, hold on. Now, with the word for I messed up. I will demand of you. That word is sha'al. It means to ask, to inquire, to borrow, to beg, to inquire, to consult of a deity or oracle. And that is Shan, Aleph, and Lamad. So you get paired to the strength of the shepherd, or the teaching of the shepherd pairs. Either way it go, he was inquiring of Elohim. He wasn't making a demand. He was seeking and asking Elohim. And he said, then I will declare unto you what I know. That's what Yada is, what you know. And what did he know? He said, I have heard of you by the hearing of the ear. This is how he say he heard of Elohim. And again, it is Shema. And it said by the hearing of the ear, and it is Shema. A report or a hearing. That's how he said he heard of Yahuwah, by the hearing of the ear. Now that a report or a hearing, that's Shan, Meen, and Ayin. So he gets to know the pairing of the blood, or the consumption of the blood, or to know the pairing of the Ruach. And to know the pairing of the Ruach is much better, because that's why he said, the words that I speak unto you, they are Ruach and they are life. He said, I heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eye see. Because he wouldn't be able to see unless he heard. That's why he said, open my eyes to behold the wondrous things out of your Torah. It's one of the reasons why he healed that blind man in John 9. And then one of the reasons why Paul was made blind. Because when you're walking in sin and unbelief, you're blind, you can't see. Though your eyes open, you see nothing. When the word of faith is manifested, the scales fall off your eye, and you can see the wondrous works of Elohim, and then you will begin to exalt him and honor him and praise him and trust in him and follow him. But you can't do that unless you've heard of him. And that's why Shema is repeatedly used when dealing with hearing, because you must have faith to believe. And the only way that can be done is that the word must be preached unto you. There's no other way that it can be received. Don't let nobody deceive you, because the word says different. We just talked about that last week as well in Isaiah chapter 40, verse 29. He said, I've declared to you from the ancient times, and it was Shema. I done gave you the word of faith. When we just read Deuteronomy 30 the other night, and that's what Paul was quoting in Romans 10. The word is near unto you. It's in your mouth and it's in your heart, so you could do it because you've heard it. You don't need to go to heaven and get it. You don't need to go under the ground and get it. It's here for you to hear. He has revealed his word unto you. One more thing before we go back to Psalms 103. 1 Corinthians chapter 1, if I'm not mistaken. And from 1 Corinthians chapter 1, John 12, because I want you to hear it from the Lord's mouth. That's all. And I thank y'all for the word. Because where would we be without it? You know, it's easy to get real complacent and real lax and real lazy when it comes to serving Yahuwah. You have to remain diligent to the day that you die. Because nothing ain't guaranteed. Your spot's not guaranteed. I used to tell everybody this years ago. Because some people felt because I preach the word, I get to live for a long time. That doesn't mean anything. I have a job to do. When he's determined that that job is complete, I will leave here. Not a moment sooner, not a moment later. That's it. I'm not guaranteed to live for an extended period of time to do this. Not at all. Not at all. I'm going to be here as long as he allows me to be here. That's already been determined. That's on Yahuwah. I ain't got nothing to do with that. But while I'm here, I know I got to maintain to the word. That's why Paul said, I fought the good fight. I kept the faith. Hold on, I'm thinking about that. That's it. You got to keep the faith, and you got to fight every single solitary day. You got to endure every single solitary day. You have to trust in Yahuwah every single solitary day. I promise to you, because Yahuwah has already gave the promise. And on that promise, I sincerely hold dear to. You know what I'm talking about? This man said clear as day. No one has ever been ashamed who trusted in him. No one has ever been ashamed who trusted in Yahuwah. You can take that to the bank. I guarantee you get some cash back. Nevertheless, 1 Corinthians chapter 1 and verse 18. From 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 18, we'll go back to Deuteronomy 11. And when we conclude in Deuteronomy 11, we'll go to 1 Kings chapter 22 and verse 1. For the preaching of the stake is to them that perish foolishness, but unto us which are saved is the power of Elohim. Listen what he said. The preaching of the stake is to them that perish is foolish. So when you begin, and see, that's the difference what we're talking about now. When you go to talking about preaching that stake and sacrificing your body, like Yahushua sacrificed to him, anybody going to hell is foolishness. That's why a lot of brews get tight. Pause when they hear it. I don't want to hear that. Don't want to hear that because it's not self-serving. You can't esteem and honor yourself. I heard a man, I was listening to this video earlier today, right? Well, not too long ago, a couple hours ago. Dude I know who's in the real estate, whatever case may be. And he made a statement. He said, he said, I say things, he said, I'm probably going to offend you. He said, usually when you're offended, it's because there's some truth in the statement. And then I began to think to myself, no one's ever been offended by a lie unless someone lied on you. But when you're offended by the truth, you're offended by the truth for one reason, because it gives a reflection on something that makes you uncomfortable. And because it makes you uncomfortable, it's something that you don't want to deal with. So you begin to turn your ire of the thing that makes you uncomfortable and you don't want to deal with to the person who you felt has offended you because they spoke a truth that you didn't want to hear. And I said for you, and I just used that, this came to mind the other day. Can I just tell people, I'm not here to be your friend. And I really don't care nothing about your feelings. You know what I'm talking about? And I definitely do intentionally seek to offend as many people as possible. Because if I can offend you and make you uncomfortable, maybe it'll spur something in your heart that you'll change your life. And if you can change your life and your soul gets saved, then it was worth it. This is why he told you, men will hate you and speak evil of you, just like their fathers did to the prophets. I'm not concerned with being liked and being accepted, because people see a lot of brews now. They're thinking they're making people uncomfortable because you're talking about you go to work or your kids go to school. They ain't making nobody uncomfortable. That ain't making nobody uncomfortable. What make it uncomfortable is when you begin to manifest and show them you don't believe in Yahuwah like you say you do. You don't serve Yahuwah like you say you do. You don't honor him like you say you do. And see, that's what that gospel does. That's why the people were offended at Yahushua at this time on the earth. Because he was speaking things they didn't want to hear. He was manifesting truths that made them uncomfortable, and their level of comfort and their wickedness, it didn't want them to change. It didn't spur them to want to change their life. Indeed, it didn't want to make them change their life. You know what I'm saying? When somebody says something to you and it offends you because it's truth to it. And instead of getting offended at the truth that the person stated, look at why that is making you uncomfortable. Identify the uncomfortableness and what's being stated and make the necessary changes so that will no longer make you uncomfortable. Because change is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. It's not supposed to be a comfortable thing. But see, we've been told to hate truth, the things that are reliable and firm for so long. That's why we react that way. Because we see, that's like he said in Isaiah, speak smooth things to me, tell me deceits. You want somebody to lie to you. You want somebody to tell you it's okay for you to stay this way. But it's not. Because the person who's telling you that and making you comfortable that don't love you and they don't care about you. They're not invested in your success. They could care less if you achieve any level of greatness. That is not their concern. They would rather see you fail. And I've said this many times in my lifetime. Most people who have no desire to elevate and do anything don't want you to leave them behind. And I've also said this here since the moment I heard 50 Cent say it. You have to sit back and look at your thoughts and your conversation and look at the people who you associate with on a consistent basis and their conversation. Because if you sit down with a nigga and a nigga can't teach you nothing, then what is you talking to this nigga for? You know what I'm saying? If you're dealing with a nigga who cannot give you any level of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding on anything, that all they're talking about is mindless drivel and things of no consequence, why are you talking to this nigga? And most importantly, what does that say about you? Because when somebody's seeking to elevate and take themselves to a level of greatness, to expand past mediocrity, they have no desire for conversations about nothing. Conversations that don't add any benefit to anyone's life whatsoever. They don't have no desire for that. That's why you see a lot of people begin to grow apart, because a lot of people have been stagnant. You're not filling your mind with something to be able to add on. See, coming up with the niggas I grew up with and the things that we were told each one teach one. So individuals were supposed to be able to impart to each other things in the course of a conversation. Well, shoot, I've been looking at this. Well, I've been looking at this. Well, if you fill your mind up with things of no consequence, then you don't have the ability to do that. And when someone who does have the ability to do that, they don't have a desire to conversate with you on a consistent basis because you don't have anything to add in the conversation. This is why people tell you to never want to be the smartest person in the room. Because if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, because you can't learn anything from people that you are superior to in regards to information. Because I'm not going to say intelligent. Some people are very intelligent, but they don't believe they're intelligent, and they don't tap into the level of intelligence that they possess. You know what I'm saying? That's why I shared the brother who I be buying the herbs from post like, why you don't believe you great? What you got going on? What has somebody done or said to you for you not to believe that you have greatness in you and that you can achieve it? And I've told you this before. The book say that Yahushua will be called great. And if you dwell in him and he dwell in you, then by consequence, you would be great. So if you know your Elohim is great and you seek to be joined unto him, then that means you're great. And if you're great, why you don't believe that? If your Elohim has already told you this. All you have to do is yield to him, be focused, be dedicated, and be consistent, and whatever it is that you put your hand to do. Because he said if you meditate on his Torah and you do that and you keep your mind set on him, then he'll give you success and wealth and whatever it is that you put your hand to do. But see, you have to believe that. See, we don't be believing those things. But nevertheless, verse 19. For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise and bring to nothing the understanding of the prudent. Where is the wise? Where is the scribe? Where is the disputer of this world? Have not Elohim made foolish the wisdom of this world? For after that, in the wisdom of Elohim, the world by wisdom knew not Elohim. It pleased Elohim by the foolishness of preaching to save them that believe. That's the only way it's going to happen. You're going to have to hear it. You understand? Come over here to what it is. John chapter 12, verse 44. I mentioned something else, but I forgot. I know we go back to Deuteronomy 11 and then Kings 22 and 1. First Kings, that is. Oh, Second Kings, excuse me, that is. John 12 and 44. Yahushua cried and said, he that believe on me, believe not on me, but on him that sent me. He that see me, see him that sent me. That take us back to what we were talking about in Job. He said, I've heard of you by the ear, but now my eye have seen. And he pretty much just told you that. When you hear, you'll see. And if you heard me, then you're going to see him. But you can only hear by the word. That's it. There's no visuals. You understand? There's no pictures I can paint as forth as literal look at. There's no videos that can be played. There's no TV shows, no movies. No. When you sit back and you look at the movies they be making with the word and them cartoons that they be making with the word, they take artistic liberty. And they take artistic liberty because certain things in the stories contained in the text are not there as far as entertainment is concerned. So they have to put that in there because it's not made for that. It's not made for that. It's made for the manifestation of the mystery of Elohim, which is the gospel of Yahushua HaMashiach, the good news of salvation through the coming, death, and burial of one man who was anointed, who was come to bring in to anoint the Most Kadesh, to make a reconciliation for sins, to make an end of sins, and to bring in everlasting righteousness. It's not for entertainment. It's intellectually and spiritually lazy to instruct children the word by these means. Period. It is intellectually and spiritually lazy because Abraham didn't do that. Isaac didn't do that. Jacob didn't do that. You can't say that those are your forefathers and you're not going to follow that track because the law say Yahuwah knew Abraham, that he would teach his household the way of Yahuwah. So if we say Abraham is our father and he said that you ought to do the works of Abraham, then that's all that needs to be said. Nevertheless, he said, I come a light into the world that whosoever believe on me should not abide in darkness. And if any man hear my words and believe not, I'll read that again. If any man hear my words and believe not, I judge him not, for I come not to judge the world, but to save the world. He that reject me and receive not my words, have one that judge him. The word that I have spoken, the same shall judge him in the last day. For I have not spoken of myself, but Abba which sent me, he gave me a commandment, what I should say and what I should speak. And I know that his commandment is life everlasting, and whatsoever I speak, therefore, even as Abba said unto me, so I speak. That's the only way that it can be imparted. It can't be imparted any other way. Nevertheless, Deuteronomy 11 again. We pick it up at verse 18. And again, that's why we read the Proverbs and all the reading, because that's how the word get in your heart. Which goes back to when we were talking about that parable of the sower, that good seed that fall in a good and honest heart. Because the seed is the word of Elohim, according to Luke 11. That's the only way it can get there. You can't get it in no other way. You got to hear it. Therefore, you shall lay up these my words in your heart and in your soul, and bind them for a sign upon your hand, that they be as frontlets between your eyes, and you shall teach them to your children. Speaking of them when you sit in the house. Now you remember, a long time ago, we dealt with this gospel-wise. We're not going to spend that much time. When you look at speaking in the house, all you got to go look and see Yahushua in the temple, speaking of the word. He said when you lie down, when he went down and preached the word to the Ruachs in prison, because even the Ruachs in prison, they heard the word. He went to go preach it to them. He said, and when you rise up, and you know when he resurrected from the dead, he sat down with his apostles and he opened up the scriptures and showed them that the whole book was about him. So even Yahushua himself has shown you the template of a father. He said, when I was in my house, I taught it to him. When I went in the grave, I went down to the Ruachs in prison and I taught it to them. And when I resurrected from the dead, I taught it to them. And all three of them heard it in the same fashion. It was preached to them. That's the only way you could get it. Now, if you know full well the spirits in prison got the word by preaching, what makes you think you can't get it? You ain't going to get it that way now. That's absurd and totally against the framework of Yahuwah. That's how he set it up. Remember, it's according to his plan, not ours. It's according to his way, not ours. He said his thoughts are not like your, are higher than your thoughts. And his ways are not your ways. And you have to understand that and know that. You have to understand that and know that and fix your mind to be set on what Yahuwah has ordained and not what you feel like should be done. Because who did you get wisdom and understanding from for you to make that determination? 2 Kings chapter 22 and verse 1. Now I want to show y'all something of a point with somebody in the text who was righteous and his age and his position. 2 Kings 22 and 1. 2 Kings 22 and 1. It said Josiah was 8 years old when he began. We got to go to Psalms, back to Psalms 103 when we finish here. I almost forgot about that. Josiah was 8 years old when he began to reign. Josiah was 8 years old. Now, y'all willing, the oldest child that we have will turn 7 next month. And then the second oldest, y'all willing, will turn 7 3 months later. You have Josiah, who was 8 years old when he began to reign. He reigned 31 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Jedediah, the daughter of Adiah of Boskath. And he did that which was right in the sight of Yahuwah, and walked in the way of David his father, and turned not aside to the right hand or to the left. Now, why do we read about it? Because if he's 8 years old, he's 8 years old, and he able to do what was right, well, how did you think he was able to do it? Because somebody had to teach it to him. Somebody had to teach it to him. Somebody had to show him the word for him to be able to do which is right. There was no YouTube for him. There was no MGM studios for him. There was no television for him. Somebody sat down and opened up Torah to him and showed it to him and taught it to him and told it to him. This is the only way he would have been able to do that which is right before Yahuwah. Now, the reason we looked at it because it made a point to reference that this man was 8 years old when he started. 8 years old. Now, also, if you recall from 1 Kings, you remember about the one, he wasn't that young, but he still was a young man, and he went to sit back and get counsel from the young men just like him versus listening to the elders who knew word. And his daddy was Solomon. He knew word too. But sometimes we like to hearken to people who don't have any knowledge of Torah because they'll always tell you what your flesh wants to hear. See, your flesh wants to hear the things that will appease it. That's why the book tells you to always go in the way of wisdom. Nevertheless, Psalms 103. I think we stopped at verse 10. We're in verse 11. Psalms 103 and 11. For Shamahim is high above the earth, so great is his mercy towards them that fear him. So I just want y'all, some of y'all might not have the ability to do so. But if you have the ability to do so, I want you to look out the window. If you're able to crack your door open and be able to do that, then do that as well. And I literally want you to sit back and look at heaven and see how high above it is above the earth. So maybe that you can see in your mind that that's high the level of mercy that you have to every single solitary person who fears, reverence, and honor and respects him. Because see, we couldn't even, unless you've been in, and some of y'all done flew in a plane. I've flown in a plane. I don't know how many of you have flown in a plane. But I know, wager, if you did the first time, you looked out the window. And when you looked out the window, you was able to see how high above the earth you were. And that's how high his mercy is to those that fear him. Let that just sit there and resonate in your brain. As the words say, Salah, pause. Think about it for a moment. I know it's, Brother Stanley was telling me something the other day. And, you know, and I sit back and thought about it, and, you know, and what I was thinking about was this here, right? My whole objective, especially considering that most of y'all are young people, and you serve Yahuwah. And the whole objective, knowing that you're young people and you're married and you have small children, is to have it in your mind that you direct your household in the fear and admonition of Yahuwah from the jump street. So for the men to take that on, to lead their wife in that fashion and to impart it to their children. Now, I know a lot of people, and I've never been in a church, so I've never had these experiences. Where people be like, you know, the women listen to the pastor over their husband, this, that, and the third. And I never understood that dynamic, never made sense to me. You know what I'm saying? Because I can't tell another person how to run their household. That's insane in and of itself. That's disrespectful as a man. Even not dealing with no word. That's just disrespectful as a man. You can't tell no man how to run his household unless he running his household outside the word of Yahuwah. Then he has to be corrected for that. That's just period. That ain't got nothing to do with his household. You're disorderly and out of pocket. You know what I'm saying? Because we just had a conversation. I remember a woman told her, she was like, it was a dude who he required his wife to plate his food in a particular fashion. And if she did not plate his food in a particular fashion, then she had to do it like that until she got it to his standard, and then he would eat. And some people felt like that was wrong and somebody should correct him for that fashion. But I'm like, shoot, it ain't no sin. What can you tell him? If that's what he required, that's what he required. That ain't got nothing to do with nobody. Hopefully that woman would have found that out before she signed on for that. But if not, oh well. It is what it is. Ain't nothing I can do about that. If that man wanted his drawers flat pressed and ironed every single solitary morning before he put them on, who is anybody to say anything against that? That's what he wants. It's not unrighteousness. You might feel it's overkill. You might feel like, why would he want her to do that? That ain't my determination to speak on. You know what I'm talking about? And I don't know what dudes got going on when it comes to that. I don't have that experience. Maybe some of y'all had that experience of men telling people in the church that, hey, your marriage should go like, I don't know nothing about that. All I know is fear Yahuwah, period. The words say do this, that's what you ought to do. Man or woman. This is what the words say, do that. What you do outside of that ain't no sin, I genuinely just don't care. Ain't got nothing to do with me. You know what I'm talking about? Absolutely ain't got nothing to do with me. I just genuinely don't care because it's none of my concern. The reason why I say it is because coming up, my homeboys had girlfriends. Man, I didn't know nothing about what they had going on. It wasn't none of their business. We didn't have them conversations. What does that have to do with me? Why do I care? That nigga didn't care what I had going on. I don't care what he got going on. Ain't got nothing to do with me. You know what I'm saying? As long as that man ain't beating you up, that ain't got nothing to do with me. If you like this, and I done told you this before, that nigga go upside your head, you ought to leave. And if you stay, I hope he kill you because you ain't got good sense. You don't love, value, and respect and honor yourself enough to know that that is not love nor permissible. So don't come complaining by the nigga bust you upside your head and then tools are given for you to be able to remedy that situation and you go back for that nigga to bust you upside your head again. That's on you. You know what I'm saying? I ain't got nothing to do with that. Don't want to hear it. I'm genuinely unconcerned. And I've told y'all this in the past. I've seen that end very poorly for a few people in my lifetime who interjected themselves in that manner. And that girl was still wanting to fool with that man. And they were adversely affected by that. I'm not on that. As far as infidelity is concerned, that's up to you. How you handle that. If you can deal with it, that's your business. If you can't, that's your business. Because I can't tell you what to do. I can only tell you what the words say do. I can give you my opinion in regards to what I would do. But at the end of the day, that choice is yours because you have to live with it. And I learned that being locked up. Dudes be like, bro, you think I should take this to trial? You think I should do this? I can't tell you what to do. Because if you go to trial and lose, you ain't going to blame me and say, I got you a life sentence. You know what I'm talking about? No, bro. No, I can't tell you what to do. You got to do what's best for you. I can't answer that question. I can give you my perspective, but that's my perspective of what's good for me. What's good for me may not be good for you. What I desire to do may not be what you desire to do. So you have to make the decision that's best for you and your children. The only thing that the number one thing that come before all of that is serving Yahuwah, praising, serving, honoring, fearing, believing, and trusting in Yahuwah. That supersedes everything. And if you're out of pocket on that, then I got something to say. But if you ain't out of pocket on that, I ain't got nothing to say. Because it ain't got nothing to do with me. Nevertheless, back to Psalms 103. I'm in verse 12. As far as the east is from the west, so far has he removed our transgressions from us. Now look what he said. As far as the east is from the west, that's how far he took away your sins. Matter of fact, let me show you how far he took away your sins. Let me show you how far he took away your sins. Come to Acts chapter 1. Let's just look how far he took away your sins. Let's just see how far he took them away. Because you know he said, this is my blood, which is shed for many for the remission of sins. Acts chapter 1, verse 4. Let's see how far he took your sins away. So you can maybe have some type of mental picture in your head, according to the word, how far he took them away. Make it verse 3. He said, to whom he also showed himself alive. This is Acts 1 and 3. After his passion by many infallible proofs. Being seen of many 40 days. Being seen of them 40 days and speaking of the things pertaining to the kingdom of Elohim. And being assembled together with them, commanded them that they should not depart from Jerusalem, but wait for the promise of Abba, which say he, you have heard of me. And again, he say this promise, you heard it from me. For Yachanan truly immersed with water, but you shall be immersed with the Ruach HaKodesh not many days hence. And when they will therefore come together, they asked of him, saying, Lord, will you at this time restore again the kingdom to Yasharal? And he said to them, it's not for you to know the times or the seasons which Abba hath put in his own power, but you shall receive power after that the Ruach HaKodesh has come upon you, and you shall be witnesses unto me, both in Jerusalem and all in Yehuda and in Samaria and to the uttermost part of the earth. I mean, if they witnesses, they testify. And if they testify, that means they talk. And when he had spoken these things, which while they beheld, he was taken up in a cloud, received them out of their sight. And while they looked steadfastly toward Shamahim as he went up, behold, two men stood by them in white apparel, which said also, you men of Galilee, why stand you gazing up into Shamahim? This same Yahushua, which is taken up from you into Shamahim, shall come so in like manner as you've seen him go into Shamahim. That's how far away he took your sins away. He took them all the way to heaven for you. He took them all the way to heaven for you. Now let that just sink in your mind. Again, say, Lord, pause, think and consider. He took your sins all the way to heaven. Now, if that ain't love, I don't know what is. If that ain't mercy, I don't know what is. Because that's what he did. Ain't none of these other people, gods, doing nothing like that. They ain't taking no sins to heaven with them. Praise you who in the name of Yahushua. That's how much what it is. Now come back to verse 13 of Psalms 103. I'll give you a second to get back. You know, thank the Lord. Thank the Lord. I thank the Lord for a sound mind, a heart to believe, and a heart and desire to serve. And most importantly, that his word is still in my heart. Because, you know, like we were talking about the other day, you don't retain it there. You don't like to keep it there. He'll snatch it out. Yes, baby. Is this here complete? Okay. Psalms 103 and 13. Oh. I'm behind. Psalms 103 and 13. He say, like as a father pity his children, so Yahuwah pity them that fear him. Now, let's look at the word for pity. If it would come up, you know, smooth kind of stuff. There we go. The word is rakam. It means to love deeply, to have mercy, to be compassionate, to have tender affection. So when you look at as a father pity his child, a father should have a deep love and be merciful and compassionate to his children. And in order to be merciful and compassionate, you have to have patience. That's why I mentioned that earlier, that if you know that you're spiritually, mentally, and emotionally superior to a child, then there should be a level of mercy and compassion with that child, which means the manifestation of patience. Because this is what Yahuwah has manifested. That is Rosh, Ka, and Meen. So all you can sit back and look at that instead of saying, and I'm gonna let y'all know, right? In certain words that say chief, I'm just gonna start putting the names there. And I'm not gonna say chief or man with raised arms or anything of that there. I'm just gonna put the man name there. It's for understanding purposes, for edification purposes. So when you sit back and you look at Rosh and we say chief, and we see that Yahushua blood separates. And how does it separate? It separates you under salvation because that blood was his love. It was his mercy and it was his compassion. Paul. 1 Peter chapter 1. What it is? About verse 17. And from that, John chapter 13. I'm going to get to the verse we got in Proverbs. I won't spend too long on what we got. And that, prayerfully, y'all knows. But this is where we at. So this is what we're going to do. So praise be to Yahuwah. And there it is. 1 Peter chapter 1. Make it verse 16. Matter of fact, make it verse 14. Because make it 13. Because it's congruent in what we're discussing. Remember now, rakam for pity is to love deeply and to have tender affection and to be merciful and to be compassionate. I'm going to look at another thing after that. Matter of fact, when we read this 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 13, we're going to go to 2 Chronicles chapter 36. And from 2 Chronicles chapter 36, we'll take a trip to John chapter 13. It says, wherefore gird up the loins of your mind, be sober, and hope to the end for the grace that is brought unto you at the revelation of Yahushua HaMashiach. Look at that. When you say have that clear mind, hope to the end, have an expectation to the end. Most importantly, gird up your mind, guard your heart, for the issues of life proceed from it. So he said, as obedient children, not fashioning yourselves according to the former lust in your ignorance. Now, we were talking about this here yesterday too, right? And I think I mentioned this to all y'all before. Children lack wisdom and understanding and impulse control. Now, guess what? When you were a sinner in the world, you lacked wisdom and understanding and impulse control. You didn't have temperance. You didn't have self-control to resist your lusts. So knowing this is how you turn around and have mercy and compassion on your own seed, because Yahuwah had mercy and compassion on you when he knew that you didn't have wisdom and you didn't have understanding and you didn't have temperance. Now, again, to take us back that he's slow to wrath, goodness, plenteous in mercy, and forgiveness. Nevertheless, he say, but as he which have called you is Kadash, so be you Kadash in all manner of conduct. Because it is written, be ye Kadash, for I am Kadash. And if you call on Allah, who without respect of persons judge according to every man's work, pass the time of your sojourning here in fear. For as much as you know that you were not redeemed with corruptible things of silver and gold from your vain conduct, received by tradition from your fathers, but with the precious blood of Mashiach, as a lamb without blemish and without spot, who truly was foreordained before the foundation of the world, but was made manifest for you in these last times, who by him do you believe in Elohim, that raised him up from the dead and gave him esteem, that your faith and hope might be in Elohim. So sit back and think about this here, right? And that goes back to Yahushua himself, because Yahuwah had pity on his son who feared. He said, this is my beloved son in whom I'm well pleased. He had compassion on him. He rose him from the dead. And if you believe and you put Yahushua on and make no provisions for the flesh to fulfill the lust thereof, then he's going to have the same mercy and compassion that he had on his son, because that's who he's going to see. But what we're looking at this is all you have to sit back and look at is the deep love that Yahuwah had for his own son. It's the same deep love that he has for us, because he say he has this pity for those that fear him. He say, like as a father pity his children, so does Yahuwah pity them that fear him. So those who respect, honor, and reverence him, he loves them just as deeply. He has just as much mercy and compassion. Now look at your children. Do they fear you? And when I say fear you, not that type of fear that people like to impart. Do they reverence you? Do they honor you? Are they stubborn and hard-headed from time to time? Absolutely. But we're going to read the verse in a minute. You should know your child. And if you know your child, then you should know how the ability to not allow them to frustrate you, knowing that you are mentally, emotionally, and spiritually superior to them. We ain't never frustrated you because he's superior to us. Y'all not going to frustrate me because I know what to do with you. Nevertheless, 2 Chronicles 36. Make sure I'm in the right spot. I feel like I'm in the wrong place. Maybe because I'm thinking about the framework of another book. Where it is in that book, I think I'm bugging out. It is 2 Chronicles though. It was. I was tripping. My apologies, everybody. 36 and 13. I definitely tripped. But I was definitely thinking about another book that I owned previously and where that verse would have slotted. It doesn't. Yeah. Even though I've had this particular book for one time, you know, I appreciate it because Dwight gave me this book. Because the other book I had was falling apart. I don't like to change books because I know the pages. So I know what stuff that is immediately on the turn. And I was thinking about the Bible before this one. And I had another one before that one. That was my favorite one. Nevertheless, make it 36 and 11. Zechariah was 1 and 20 years old when he began to reign. He reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. He did that which evil in the sight of Yahuwah and humbled not himself before Jeremiah the prophet, speaking from the mouth of Yahuwah. See, he didn't humble himself because he didn't believe it. He also rebelled against King Nebuchadnezzar, who made him swear by Elohim, but he stiffened his neck and hardened his heart from turning unto Yahuwah Elohim of Yasharal. Moreover, all the chief of the priests and the people transgressed very much after all the abominations of the heathen and polluted the house of Yahuwah, which he hallowed in Jerusalem. And Yahuwah Elohim of their father sent to them by his messengers, rising up betimes and sending, because he had compassion on his people and on his dwelling place. So that means he kept sending these people to repeat the same things over and over to them because of the level of compassion that he had towards his people and the place where he placed his name. Because don't get me wrong, right? We black people. I think everybody on here black. If somebody ain't black, it's all good. No disrespect. But you know, our people don't like to say the same thing more than one time. They're going to bust you upside your head. You know what I'm saying? Now, wherever that thought process began at, I don't know. I can understand that thought process. Now, the word for compassion here is kamal, and it is the spirit that has pity and to have compassion. And it's kat, meme, and lamad. When you sit back and see that, the teaching of the blood or the teaching of the ruach separates. So he's trying to teach you the word so you can be separated from his wrath. But we don't like to listen. And then what ends up happening, you know, you like this here. I keep telling this child this, that, and the third. They don't listen. I'm busting them upside their head. You know what I'm talking about? But what I'm going to get into is, and like I said, some people like to say, like, you know, they hear like to say, like, you know, that nigga probably whoop churn every time. I do not. You know what I'm saying? I don't feel that it's necessary. I feel like that's the last resort. I think I probably mentioned this before. The level of respect that they have for what I have to say to them should be enough. The look I give should be enough. You know what I'm saying? Me striking you should be the last resort for your insolence. And I'm not talking about a little thump, a little pop on the head. I'm talking about whooping your behind. Because I know that if I have to constantly whoop you, then my ability to impart to you what it is that I need you to do is clearly lacking on my part. Unless you're just an evil child, then there's absolutely nothing I can do about that. You know what I'm saying? And at that point, we might have to get rid of it. You know what I'm saying? But these children here, they too young to talk about they evil to get rid of. You know what I'm saying? But my mama didn't whoop me every time. There definitely were consequences if certain things were done. But that was the last resort. Because the reason why I say that, because if you, after a while, a child will just get to the point where they feel like, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and do this anyway and take the pop because it'll pass. And therefore, that doesn't really hold the, and this is as they get older, it doesn't hold the same weight that it may have had at one time because they just feel like, you know what, whatever I'm going to do is worth the whooping, so I'll just take the whooping. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't serve that purpose. Now, I can say with my people, if they chastised us, they definitely sat down. I told you before, they definitely sat down and went into great detail on why you were chastised, the negative effect of the choice, and why is it imperative to select a good choice. And I could tell my cousin probably can bear witness that sometimes we would have rather that they just whooped us and just kept it at that. You know what I'm saying? But they did not for the most part. I'm not going to say they did it every time, but for the most part, they did not. And looking back on it, as we've gotten older, it is better served that they did so because it gave us a strong ability to be able to make a decision, knowing that there are consequences of the action and to really have foresight to know what can occur if we make a particular decision, and that you're going to have to deal with that if you make that decision. So with that, them doing that, I was very appreciative. My granddad didn't do that too much. That nigga just going to whoop you and send you on your way. But he did give a lot of wisdom in between that, outside of those. And more so, the words of instruction and admonition, even when they are in error, are much, much greater than just busting them upside their head. Because they're not going to learn nothing from that. They're going to get nothing from that. You know what I'm saying? It is needed, though. Don't get the game twisted. It is needed because sometimes they need it. And some of y'all can know, like, I try to talk to the children because I don't want your parents to come off the top rope. Because they're going to come off the top rope if they tired of fooling with you. And ain't nothing I can do for you once they come off the top rope. Because, see, I ain't my grandma. I ain't going to say don't beat that baby. But, shoot, they don't push you to that limit. Beat that nigga there. If that's what you feel like needs to be done because this nigga's not listening. And you know, Yahuwah has done that to us. Oh, y'all want to listen? Don't worry. I'm going to send a sword. I'm going to send pestilence. I'm going to send famine. You gonna maybe that'll correct your behavior. So sometimes it need to be done. But I'm mentioning that because he said he's slow to anger. So that's his last resort. Because don't get it twisted. What we're reading right here, right? Because see, some of the children do this here. They mock the messages of Elohim, despise the words. Now, they ain't misusing their parents, but misused his prophets until the wrath of Yahuwah rose against his people till there was no remedy. And that was my point. Oh, you don't want to listen? I've been compassionate. I gave you space and long suffering. You still want to do what you wanted to do? I got bust you upside your head. A good example of that was on First Night of Tabernacle. That's what happened to Mari. Mari got a good long staying of patience and long suffering. And he kept it, and he kept pushing that mercy. And then he got wrapped till there was no remedy. You know, give them a little leeway. But if they keep pushing it, shoot, you got to crack them. That's what Yahuwah do, son. You got to crack them. Just don't crack them first quarter, you know. Let them get to the 2-minute warning, maybe the halftime, maybe 2-minute warning in the fourth quarter. But they don't want to listen. You got to do what you got to do. Maybe they'll consider the next time, because most of our people did it that way. I'm going to go ahead. You're going to listen. But I mentioned that because Yahuwah wants you to amend yourself without him executing wrath. And that's really my whole point. You know what I'm saying? You want them to amend their behavior without the wrath. I don't really want to do that. I will do it, but I don't want to do it. I don't take no pleasure in that. I don't think anybody on here takes pleasure in spanking their children. Because if you did, you're a sick bastard. You know what I'm saying? And see, a lot of people try to come at Yahuwah and say he take pleasure on executing wrath on men, but he said, I have no pleasure in the death of him that died. But that man's not going to play with you. You're not going to keep disrespecting him. You're not going to keep bucking him. You're not going to keep being rebellious. He's going to go ahead and show you. But that's not his desire. Now, unfortunately, you do have people that get off on that. But for the average, most people don't have no pleasure in that. See, the white folks don't want you to whoop your children. You know, they want you to talk to them, put them in timeout. They don't want you to chastise. So you put them in timeout, and for these kids' age, that's horrible. Because, you know, 10 minutes in a corner feel like 3 hours to them. You know what I'm saying? Some of y'all know when your people used to make you go in your room, you couldn't play with your toy. See, they ain't have phones like we got now. So you got to dephone these niggas and take laptops and all. We ain't had none of that. At most, you had a Nintendo or a Sega. But the thing that killed you the most was to hear your friends playing out the door, and you was on 23-hour lockdown. Indeed, because you want to be out there with them, but you can't go. And that's how you feel in America. You want to be free, but you can't go. You want to be able to go outside and play and be free and have fun, but you can't. You behind bars. That's what we was talking about. They said it's your punishment, and you have to accept it. And you have to accept that punishment because you don't listen. You don't follow instructions. You harden your heart to what's been told, and his patience ran out. But he said, but listen what he said, for he know our frame, and he remember that we are dust. Now that's what we came here for. He said he knows your frame, and he remembers that he made you from the dust of the ground, and that the flesh is contrary to the word of Elohim, and it's not subject to it, neither indeed can be. And that's why he has so much long suffering and patience, because he know you're not ruach like he is. And that's why I frame that to the children. You know that they don't have the minds that we have. They don't have the knowledge. They don't have the wisdom. They don't have the understanding. They don't have the self-control that we have. So we have to remember their frame, that this is but a child.
Hey, Baba.
Hello, but your mommy called.
Okay.
And we have to remember that.
Sleep well.
But don't get me wrong, because I know they get on your nerves, and sometimes you forget it. It's a child. I'm finna elbow this nigga in his forehead. You know what I'm saying? But try to keep it at the forefront of your mind. This is what he say though. But the mercy of Yahuwah is from everlasting to everlasting upon them that fear him, and his righteousness unto children's children. He passed that salvation down from generation to generation. Proverbs chapter 12. You know, praise Yahuwah. I prayerfully that assisted somebody today. Some form of edification was made known. Because don't get me wrong. I know children get on your nerves. You know how I know? Because I used to be one. And I know I could get on my mama's nerves, but I also know that my mother loves me. Very much so. And not only her, but my grandma, my granddad, and my auntie. And they showed it consistently and regularly. Proverbs 12 and 26. He said, the righteous is more excellent than his neighbor, but the way of the wicked seduce them. So now when we come here with more excellent, it says the righteous is more excellent than his neighbor. The word excellent here is tor. It means to seek, to search out, to spy, to explore, and to make a search. So excellent, it ain't saying what you say. It says the righteous seek out more than his neighbor. Oh, that's a lot different right there, my friends. That's what it says. It says the righteous seeks out more than his neighbor. What are they seeking? You have Ta'u and Rosh. I'll give you a minute to come up with that. You can share on here if you will. Give you a minute. So this is what makes the righteous more excellent, quote unquote. They seek out and spy out the word more. Why are you thinking on that? Let's go to Numbers 13. It's Numbers 13. Jay Bird, what you doing? You better get in that bed, Bird. It ain't gonna end well for you. Numbers 13 and 1. That's Ta'u and Rosh. I give y'all a moment. Come up with something. Just want y'all to get over here to Numbers 13 and 1. Ta'u and Rosh. You say the covenant of the breath from the chief or the covenant of the I don't know where you got breath from, that sir. You might have been using something different, but it's all good. Tavon, you ain't never text me your email address neither, man. I had already, my mama had something in hers. I emailed her all the alphabet, man. Just text me your email address and I'll send it to you. Same thing for you, Jessica, if you ain't got it. Or anybody else for that matter. If you desire that. Just if you have my phone number, you can text me the email address. Matter of fact, there it is. You can just text my phone your email address, and I will send it to you. Nevertheless, so we got Ta'u and Rosh. Numbers 13 and 1, yes, sir. Does anybody else want to put anything up there with that before we proceed? Bet, I got you, bro. I got you. Matter of fact, I thought you already had those. I know they were. That's been a long time. Yeah, they gone from out that group. Man, they probably ain't even know where to find those. I think I'm missing a couple words though. Couple letters though. I just sent it to you, man. Word. I just sent it to you though. Yeah, text it to me, bro. You ain't got to ask. That's why I put it up there. You already got me. If you got my phone number, text me your email address. I send it to you. I mean, truth be told, I send it to you right now. You know what I'm saying? It ain't take but a click. So I came with that is that Yahushua secures the covenant. That's what I came with that. You know, for the Rosh, instead of chief, just put Yahushua. I'll take that ooh and he's secured, and that tau, and he secures the covenant. Now, why is that important when we come over here to Numbers 13 and 1? And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, send you men, that they may search the land of Canaan, which I give unto the sons of Yasharal, of every tribe of their fathers, shall you send a man, every one a ruler among them. Now, the land is a part of that first covenant. And of course, he sent Yahushua, son of Nun, to bring forth the securing of that covenant, because they were spying out the land in regards to be able to take it. All right. Give me a second. So we're going to drop down a little bit to verse 17, Numbers 13 and 17. Numbers 13 and 17. Give me a second, y'all. Yeah, I just sent it to you, Mike. I just sent it to you, Mike. Verse 17. Moses sent them to spy out the land of Canaan and said unto them, get you up this way southward and go up into the mountain and see the land what it is, and the people that dwell therein, whether they be strong or weak, few or many. And what land is that they dwell in, whether it be good or bad. And what cities that they be that dwell in, whether in tents or in strongholds. And what the land is, and whether it be fat or lean, whether there be wood therein or not. And be ye of good courage, and bring the fruit of the land. Now the time was the time of the first ripe grapes. And you know what? I apologize, because I didn't read that verse about summer fruits. And praise Yahuwah, he brought it back to mind, and he mentioned these first ripe grapes. So I want you to hold this, and I want you to come to do Micah chapter 7. If anybody else wants those characters, just let me know. And I'll shoot it on through. Micah 7:1. Woe is me, for I am as when they have gathered the summer fruits, as the great gleanings of the vintage. There is no cluster to eat. My soul desire the first ripe fruit. So you look at them summer fruits. This is grapes. Say the great gleaning. He say, but my soul desire the first ripe fruit. Remember that Paul made mention that we were those who have the first fruits of the Ruach. And remember that take us back to the resurrection of the dead, or the first resurrection. Because this is what Yahuwah desires, that first ripe fruit, that summer fruit. Because you would be the fruit that will birth during Passover when he come back to tabernacles to bring meat into his house, if you will. Nevertheless, he said the good man is perished out of the earth, and there's none upright among men. They all lie in wait for blood, and they hunt every man his brother with a net, that they may do evil with both hands earnestly. The prince asked and the judge asked for a reward, and the great man he uttered his mischievous desire, so they wrap it up. The best of them is a briar. The most upright is sharper than a thorn hedge. The day of the watchman and your visitation come, now shall there be perplexity. Trust you not in a friend, put you not confidence in a guide, and keep the doors from the mouth of your mouth from her that lie in your bosom. For the son dishonor the father, and the daughter rise up against her mother, and the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and a man's enemies are of his own house. And you know, that takes us back to when Yahushua said that he came to bring a sword. That takes us also back to when you're dealing with David, because his enemies were of his own house, namely Absalom. And it also takes us back to the wheats and the tares, because the enemies would be those of your own house. Because you're going to have some first ripe fruit. That takes us back to Jeremiah 24. You have some good figs and some bad figs. Some figs so bad you couldn't even touch it. Don't want that summer fruit. It's trash. It also takes us back to that fig tree. You don't want Yahushua to come up to that fig tree and he looking for fruit and it ain't none, because he going to curse it and you're going to wither up and die. Don't let that man come find you and ain't no fruit on that tree. That's why he say every tree that don't bring forth fruit, he cut it down and then throw it in the fire. Because he's looking for faith, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, mercy, self-control. That's what he's looking for. Remember, he's looking for parade, the fruit. Yahushua is the word of Elohim. That's what he's looking for. That's why he told, go find the fruit of the land. Bring back the first ripe grape. That's what you bring back. Come on back, number 13. Remember, the righteous is more excellent than his neighbor. So the righteous seek out Yahuwah. That's what they do. That's what makes them better than their neighbor. See, they don't want to have that conversation. You ain't better than your neighbor because you're seeking Yahuwah, not seeking that you're Israel, not seeking precepts to cut up somebody's doctrine, but you seeking Yahuwah's face. He told you to seek the kingdom of Elohim, and all these things be added unto you. See, see one thing about niggas always worry about the wrong thing. Numbers 13-21. Niggas always worry about the wrong thing. Get the game twisted. Have the rules missing because you worry about the wrong thing. But the righteous is more excellent than his neighbor because he's seeking Yahuwah out. That's what makes him righteous. That's why we looked at about the hearing of the word and sitting down and teaching the children diligently of the word, because you're seeking his face. And when your children see you seek his face, then prayerfully, if Yahuwah be merciful, they will co-opt that and follow that same pattern. Because we didn't talk about this before. Ain't no guarantee they're going to be righteous. Samuel's sons were wicked. Samuel's sons did exactly what is mentioned in Micah 7. They asked for a reward when they judged. But you should have the mind of Elisha. Elisha healed the man. He said, I don't want nothing from you. Freely you giving, freely you receive, freely give. I don't want nothing from you. You good. Let Yahuwah be praised. That's what Naaman went and did too. Nevertheless, 13 and 21. So they went up and searched the land from the wilderness of Zin unto Rehob. We don't need all that. We don't need all that. Let's drop down to verse 23. And they came into the brook of Eshol and cut down from thence a branch with one cluster of grapes. And they bare it between two upon a staff, and they brought of the pomegranates and the figs. And now we went over this long time ago. Remember, they said they came from this and cut down a branch. I'll do it just to do it. Praise you. I'll do it just to. Those for you who ain't never heard it. Because sometimes we do got to bring things back to your remembrance. And I have to remember there's people here, and maybe y'all willing people who come back later, they didn't hear it when some of y'all heard this the first time. Jeremiah chapter 20. Jeremiah 23 and 1. I have to remember that. Hold on. Woe be unto the Jeremiah 23 and 1. Woe be unto the pastors that destroy and scatter the sheep of my pasture, saith Yahuwah. Therefore, thus saith Yahuwah Elohim of Yasharal against the pastors that feed my people. You scattered my flock and driven them away, and have not visited them. Behold, I will visit upon you the evil of your doings, saith Yahuwah. And I will gather the remnant of my flock out of all countries whither I have driven them, and will bring them again to their folds, and they shall be fruitful and increase. I will set up shepherds over them, which shall feed them, and they shall fear no more, nor be dismayed, neither shall they be lacking, saith Yahuwah. Behold, the days come, saith Yahuwah, that I will raise unto David a righteous branch. A king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth. And in his days Yehudah shall be saved, and Yasharal shall dwell safely. And this is his name, which whereby he shall be called, Yahuwah our righteousness. So Yahuwah is faith, and you look at that because it's Sadak, and you know the righteousness of Yahuwah is faith. Nevertheless, therefore, behold, the days come, saith Yahuwah, they shall no more say Yahuwah live, which brought the children of Yasharal out of the land of Mizraim, but Yahuwah lived, which brought up and which led the seed of the house of Yasharal out of the north countries, and from all the countries I had driven them, and they shall dwell in their own land. Now, you know, Isaiah 11 says that there be a branch raised up to Jesse. John 15. Remember, they said they took this branch, took the grapes, put it on the staff between two. Let me read it correctly. Say one cluster of grapes, they buried between two upon a staff. Buried upon two upon a staff. Y'all should know what that is. That should be pretty easy for you. John chapter 15. and 1. He said, I'm the true vine, and my Abba is the husbandman. He that branch, he's telling you. Every branch in me that bear not fruit, he take away, and every branch that bear fruit, he purge it, that it might bring forth more fruit. Now you're clean from the word which I've spoken unto you. Abide in me, and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except it abide in the vine. No more can you, except you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. He that abide in me, and I in him, the same bring forth much fruit. For without me, you can do nothing. And if you abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch and is withered, and men gather them and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. If you abide in me, and my words abide in you, you shall ask what you will, and it shall be done unto you. Now, the key thing is for you to bring forth fruit, you have to know that Yahushua is the word of Elohim, which means you would manifest him, which means you would manifest everything that's contained in the word, every nook, every cranny, every nuance. That's why we looked at the stuff with Yahuwah looking at us towards the kid, as us as his children. So we would look at our children in the same fashion. And in doing so, we would begin to emulate Yahuwah. And if we're emulating Yahuwah, it's because we heard that word, we laid up that word, and then we manifested that word. Then when this is done, he is esteemed and praised and honored everywhere that we go. Praise Yahuwah indeed. Praise the Lamb indeed. You know what I'm saying? And that's the point. That's the point why we've always went over the gospel. That's the reason why we pull this stuff out and look at this and look at that. So is that we hear the word and we believe it. And because we believe it, we lay it up in our heart. And because we lay it up in our heart, then we are dwelling in it. And if we're dwelling in it, then it becomes outward. And that goes back to the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Because then what's coming out of your mouth is what's in your heart. And if Yahuwah is in your heart, then that's what's going to come out. Yahushua is going to come out in word, in deed, and in truth. And therefore, your Father in heaven is esteemed. And if he is esteemed and honored, then he will esteem and honor you. And that takes us back to what we were talking about the other day. Then there's a place set for you to sit at his right hand, because you will complete the last child that was born, and that would be Benjamin. But before you can get to being Benjamin, remember, you have to be afflicted. And from being afflicted, you have to be hated. And when this happens, you're joined to Yahuwah. And because you're joined to Yahuwah, then you praise Yahuwah. And because you praise Yahuwah, then you can overcome or have your great wrestlings. And then when you have your great wrestlings because you prevailed, then you begin to get your higher. And then he judges you. All of these things come to play to get you that Elohim has covered up your reproach so that you can be the son of his right hand. Because that is the objective. We have no other objective than that. We have no other objective. I had something else I forgot. Oh, well. Yahuwah willing, he'll bring it back to me. Oh, yeah, that's what it was. Come in Matthew chapter 26, 27, excuse me. Well, screw, you could do Luke 20, 23 because I'm in the book of Luke. So. Luke 23 and 26. So they took it upon a stake and buried it between two. And it says they led him away, they laid hold upon one Simon the Cyrene coming out of the country, and on him they laid the stake, that he might bear it after Yahushua. And there followed him a great company of people and of women, which also bewailed and lamented him. But Yahushua, turning unto them, said, Daughters of Jerusalem, weep not for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. For behold, the days are coming in which they shall say, Baruch are the barren, and the wombs that never bear, and the paps which never gave suck. And they shall begin to say to the mountains, Fall on us, and unto the hills cover us. For if they do these things in a green tree, what shall be done in the dry? And there were two other malefactors were led with them to be put to death. And when they were come to the place which is called Calvary, they crucified them. And the malefactors, one on the right hand and the other on the left. So when we come back to Numbers 13, it says they came, verse 23, they came unto the brook of Eshal and cut down from thence a branch with one cluster of grapes. And why is it one cluster of grapes? Let's look at the word for one cluster. Now, of course, with one, you have a cod, which you should know is oneness. In combination, that's Aleph, Kot, and Dalet. And that's the strength of the sacrifice separates. And when you're dealing with hello, what's going on, bro? So when you look at being Kot and one body, I just told y'all this other night, everybody's supposed to be at one, working in unison together. It's not a bunch of individuals. It's not individuals thinking only of themselves. It's individuals thinking of the whole, working as a whole, moving as a whole. Nevertheless, let's look at cluster. That word is ekshal, or eskol. So we want to look at that. You have Aleph, Shan, Kaf, U, and Lamad. So we see how the shepherd's strength. Now we're going to look at that, man. And with Kaf, looking at that palm, or that the consuming of the shepherd's palm, secured. And what did it secure? It secured a body, because he had to be consumed. And why did he have to be consumed? So that it could be one faith, one immersion, one body, and one Abba who is in all and through all and in you all, because it's one Ruach. And everybody has access. It's not multiple different Ruachs. Now, I was talking about this earlier too. And if some of you decide to bear witness, that's your prerogative. And if you don't, that's cool too. So I remember a few people at one time, they used to tell me they used to hear things speak in their spirit and tell them to do things. And they said they never did it. And I used to ask them, what in the world makes you think Yahuwah would grant unto you his Ruach HaKadosh and manifest his word to you if you don't listen? Because remember what he said, if you're faithful in little, you'll be faithful in much. If you can't listen to him to do minute, minuscule things, why would you think he would tell you to do greater things? You know what I'm saying? And that'd be our biggest problem if we don't listen. Because Yahuwah speaks through his Ruach and we don't listen. Because that Ruach is in all and through all and in you all. And sometimes Yahuwah just tests you just to see if you're going to follow. Just to see if you're going to obey. Now, of course, there are many Ruachs throughout the whole world. But one thing for certain and two things for sure. Yahuwah's Ruach ain't never going to tell you to do nothing contrary to his word. That is never going to happen. Something coming. That's why Ezekiel said, oh, no, I ain't never did. That ain't nothing unclean. That's why Peter did the same thing. Because they like to say, well, I know Yahuwah ain't going to tell me to do that. I know Yahuwah tell me to do a lot of things. I know he don't tell me to eat no poop. I know he ain't going to tell me to eat no swine. I know he ain't going to tell me to do that. See, they had enough sense to know that. I don't care what you say. I know what my daddy told me. My daddy ain't told me to do nothing like that. And how would you be able to have that? Why would they be able to have that information? Because they heard the word and preached to them. They knew better. See, if you want your children to do certain things, then you have to instruct them. And I'm not talking about the children that you have. See, if you want your children to do certain things, you have to instruct them. Because when you instruct them, then you'll hear their word. See, some of you probably still hear your parents in your head when you face with certain situations because you still retain their instruction that they gave you and you're grown now. So imagine if you're retaining the instructions that your parents gave you as a child to this very day and you're grown. Imagine what will happen if you retain Yahuwah's instructions in your heart. You don't think you'll hear them in your head when you're faced with certain situations that go along with that? He'll bring it to your mind because you laid it up in your heart. You stored it there. So it will navigate you and it will guide you because you would never decline or turn away from what it is that he has imparted. Nevertheless, back to Numbers 13, verse 24. He said the place was called the Brook of Eshal because of the cluster of grapes which the children of Yasharal had cut down from thence. So let's look at Eshal. Because that's why they called it, because they cut the grape down from there. Ekshal, if you will, and it literally just means cluster. Same manner of words. That's what they called it. The place of the cluster. The place of the body, because that's where they found it at. Nevertheless. And they returned from searching of the land after 40 days. They went and came to Moses and Aaron to all the congregation of the children of Yasharal unto the wilderness of Paran to Kadesh, and brought back word unto them and to all the congregation and showed them the fruit of the land. What you think the apostles went and did? When they went out there forth to preach that gospel, when they say you'll bear witness of me, they were showing them the fruit of the land. Let's see how you with the fruit of the land, everybody. Let's just see how you with the fruit of the land. Because that's just what I feel like doing right now. We'll use Mark. Matter of fact, no, we'll use John 20 because we started that the other night. What may I do for you, son? What are you up here for? We'll get the wipes. We read this verse the other night. We'll pick it up at John 20 and 8. Very well. Then went also that other disciple, which came first to the sepulchre, and he saw and believed. For as yet they knew not the scripture that he must rise again from the dead. Then the disciples went away again unto their own home. But Mary stood without the sepulchre, weeping as she wept, and stooped down and looked into the sepulchre, and see two Malachim in white, sitting the one at the head and the other at the feet, where the body of Yahushua had lain. And they say unto the woman, why weep you? She said unto them, because they've taken away my Lord, and I know not where they have laid it. When she had thus said, she turned herself back and saw Yahushua standing, and knew not that it was Yahushua. Yahushua said unto her, woman, why weep you? Whom seek you? Remember, the righteous seeks more than his neighbor. The righteous is seeking to secure the covenant. Yahushua has secured that covenant. So therefore, if you're righteous, you're going to seek after it. After we finish John 20, we'll go to Luke 11. Yahushua said unto her, Mary. She turned herself and saith unto him, Rabboni, which is to say, Master. Yahushua said unto her, touch me not, for I'm not yet ascended to my Abba, but go to my brethren, and say unto them, I ascend unto my Abba, and your Abba, and to my Elohim, and your Elohim. Mary Magdalene came and told the disciples that she had seen the Lord, and that he had spoken these things unto her. Now, of course, you know, at this point, he breathed on them for them to receive the Ruach HaKodesh, and showed himself to them, showed him his wounds, and told, blessed are you that have seen and believe, but blessed are they that have not seen and yet believe. Because when this man resurrected from the dead, then they had the fruit of the land. When he put that Ruach HaKodesh in them, they had the fruit of the land. Because the fruits of the Ruach, they began to manifest all of those things. Mainly faith is what we're focusing on this evening. That's what was manifested. They came back and showed the fruits of the land. Remember, of the 12 spies, it was one of every tribe. Same as the apostles, and they had to come back and bring the fruit of the land. The apostles went out and brought the fruit of the land to the people. And just like the people rejected the apostles, they rejected the spies. Matter of fact, let's look at the word for spies, because that just came into my mind just now that we ought to take a look at that word. And why not? It ain't gonna hurt nobody. Let me find out what the verse is. Where is it? Well, do I want to look at spy? Or do we just want to use spies? Hold on, man. No, just something to consider. Something to consider. And what we're considering is what makes the righteous. Well, the word spies is not actually used in the plural sense, but I'll pull it from another spot for the plural sense, because that's what they were doing. And then we'll go back. So when we look at the word spies, it says that the meaning there is uncertain, mountain pass or caravan route. The word is atharim. You have Aleph and Tau, Rosh, Yod, and Mim. So I'm sitting there looking at that, and I would sit back and see the strength of Yahushua's work of blood is the covenant, if you will. So we're going to have to use the word spy out on what they were doing, because the word spies is not used in that. I definitely thought the word spies was used in this chapter, but it is not. Now we will look at the word search, see what we have for that. And it's the same word in Proverbs for search. It's tur, to seek out and to search. So they're looking again to secure that covenant, because to secure the land was to secure the covenant. I was correct. The word spies is used there. And I just, no, it's just spy. I thought I seen spies. Spy out the land. And the word tur is used again. Same word. Same word is used. A securing of the covenant. Same word is used. So when you turn around and you look at them coming to the grave, It's the same thing. They seeking out, or they searching the land, they spying it out, looking for the fruit. When Yahushua rose, they found the fruit. And when he opened up the scriptures that they might understand them, they took back the fruit. Now let's come back to Numbers 13. I think I stopped in about verse 26. 27 is where we're at. And they told him and said, we come into the land whither you sent us, and surely it flow with milk and honey, and this is the fruit of it. So they went and did it, and they came back, and they showed you that gospel. This is Yahushua's the word Elohim. This is the fruit of it. Nevertheless, the people be strong that dwell in the land, and the cities are walled and very great. Moreover, we saw the children of Anak there. The Amalekites dwell in the land of the south. The Hittites and the Jebusites and the Amorites dwell in the mountains, and the Canaanites dwell by the sea and by the coast of Jordan. It said Caleb stilled the people before Yahuwah and said, let us go up at once. Before Moses, and said, let us go up at once and possess it, for we are able to overcome it. The word for stilled here is hasa, and it means to hold peace, to hold tongue, to be still, to hush, or to command to be silent. Hey, samat, and hey. Behold, and grab hold of Yahushua. And you can see that with Peter in the book of Acts and Pentecost, when they showed the first right fruit of the land. When they manifest the Ruach HaKadosh into the people on first fruits, and he preached the word to them, he told them to be still and be silent, because they went to talking about them men were drunk. He said, but it ain't but the third hour of the day. Peter came through and did the same thing Caleb did. Because you can look at that spine of the land to secure that covenant. It's the same thing you see in Pentecost, with the covenant being secured, with the Ruach HaKadosh being given. And Peter doing the same thing that Caleb did by stealing the people and telling them to be silent. And he showed them the fruit of the land because he began to preach the resurrection of Yahushua to the people. Nevertheless, where were we at? Verse 31. But the men that went up with him said, we are not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we. And they brought an evil report of the land which they had searched unto the children of Yasharal, saying, the land though which we have gone to search it is a land that eat up the inhabitants thereof. And all the people that we saw in are men of great stature. And we saw the giants, the son of Anak, which come of the giants. And we were in our own sight grasshoppers, so were we there in their sight. Weak and unbelieving men. This is why in one particular passage, Yahushua say, you would say in the law, like, if an individual is scared, don't let him go to war. Send that nigga home. Because he going to discourage everybody else. You know what I'm talking about? Now, again, what makes the righteous more excellent than his neighbor is because they seek the word. Luke 11. See, that would make you better. Luke 11. And it don't even say make you better. It just say the righteous just seek out more than his neighbor. That's what it said. Ain't even really nothing about making you better or excellent. It say the righteous seek more than his neighbor after Yahuwah, constantly and consistently. They never stop. After Luke 11, Hebrews 6. Luke 11 and 5. I'm sorry. Luke 11 and 5. Luke 11 and 5. I ain't gonna be much in front of y'all much longer. I'm get ready to call it a night in a minute. He said unto them, which of you shall have a friend and shall go unto him at midnight and say unto him, friend, lend me 3 loaves? For a friend of mine is in his journey, has come to me, and I have nothing to set before him. And he from within shall answer and say, trouble me not, the door is now shut. My children are with me in bed, I cannot rise and give you. He say unto you, and though he will not rise and give him because he is his friend, yet because of his importunity he will rise and give him as many as he need. And I say unto you, ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and you shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened. For everyone that seek, ask, receive, and he that seek, find, and to him that knock, it shall be opened. And remember, Yahuwah said, because Joshua and Caleb sought after him in that land to bring forth that fruit, they got in, the others did not. See, if you seek after Yahuwah with all your mind and all your heart and all your soul, you will be found of him. That is a guarantee. If you seek after this man with all your heart, all your mind, and all your soul, you will be found of him. Now look at the key component that must be done. You have to seek after this man with all your heart and all your soul, with all your strength and all your mind, and you will be found of him. Hebrews chapter 6. It's pursuit, if you will. Because Yahuwah will come to you, but he's not going to pursue you if the pursuit is not mutual. And we didn't talk about that before. The pursuit has to be mutual, because if the pursuit is not mutual, then someone will be disrespected and devaluing themselves for chasing after someone who does not want them. See, Yahuwah will seek after you with his word so you can hear it. And he'll tell it to you because he has compassion, but he's not going to chase you. He's not. See, there's a difference between seeking out and chasing. Yahuwah's not going to chase you. And he's not going to chase after you to beg you. He's going to give it to you. And he'll give it to you again and again and again. But once he sees that what he's offering is no value to you, then he's just going to take it back and say, don't worry about it. Hebrews chapter 6 and verse 13. For when Elohim made promise to Abraham, because he could swear by no greater, he swore by himself, saying, surely blessing I will bless you, and multiplying I will multiply you. And so after he had patiently endured, he obtained the promise. For men truly swear by the greater, and an oath for confirmation is to them the end of all strife, wherein Elohim willing more abundantly to show unto the heirs of the promise the immutability of his counsel, confirmed it by an oath, that by two immutable things in which it is impossible for Elohim to lie, we might have a strong consolation who have fled for refuge to lay hold upon the hope set before us, which hope we have as an anchor of the soul, both sure and steadfast, which enter into that within the veil, whither the forerunner is for us, entered even Yahushua, made a high priest after the order of Melchizedek. Now see, yeah, and us looking at hearing the word and looking at them coming to the grave and finding the fruit is how Yahushua secured the covenant. He secured it with his blood and by being willing to die. So therefore, the fruit of the land can be made manifest, that individuals can see the fruit of the land, that the land is good. When Yahushua rose from the dead, you could see the fruit of the land, that it was good. And this is what, and when you see with the apostles, they sought after him at the grave, because the righteous seek more than their neighbor. So that's why we looked at that and understand that. The righteous seek more than their neighbor. See, some people are not righteous, so they don't seek after. You can't expect to get this and you don't seek after it. Now, there's another half of this verse. And considering what we've been talking about this evening, I don't really want to add that. You were willing, I could deal with it on the morrow because it'll be more apropos. Because it's something that is, to a certain extent, it's a warning, and it's what would be considered to be negative to sinners. And I don't want to end what we've been dealing with tonight with that. I want us to stay focused on the aspect of what we've been looking at. So, blessed be the name of Yahuwah, by way of his only begotten Son, Yahushua HaMashiach. I appreciate everybody's time this evening. I pray everybody weigh and consider what we were looking at. Now, of course, I mentioned all the things with the children because we plan on sitting down with them. You know what I'm saying? Because they're getting older. It's about that time. But then as I was thinking about that, I said, you know what? It's better served for us to go in the word and look at it as how Yahuwah deals with us being his sons and his daughters, so that we can emulate that to our sons and our daughters. So not only would they be able to hear the word of Yahuwah, but they would see the word of Yahuwah by how we interact with them and how we interact with their mothers, and also how we interact with people who we come across, because that is what they see, and that is what's going to hold weight. Because they're going to hear the word from you. They're also going to see if your behavior matches that. And if your words match your behavior, then that holds weight. And prayerfully, if you would be merciful, they will follow suit. You know, the word is the most delightful thing that I've ever experienced in my lifetime. And I've had some delightful dishes in my time. You know what I'm saying? But no dish is more delightful than the plate of Yahuwah, and that he saw fit to even allow us to dine at his table. And Yahuwah willing, by the grace of Yahushua, we'll be found even more willing to dine at his table at the marriage supper of the Lamb, and to eat bread in the kingdom of Elohim, if he see fit to allow us to enter into his gates. But in order for us to do that, we have to hear the word. You can't believe unless you hear it. And you can't actionize it unless you hear it, because that's the only way it's going to enter into your heart for you to store it. And that's the only way that we can give it to our children, is they have to hear it. Like I told you, man, and you've seen that through the text. The word is the only way you can learn the word is through auditory, not interactive, not visual, not any other quote unquote learning style that is deemed upon people in this particular culture and society, or worldwide, whatever you want to call it. You can only hear the word through Shema. That's it. You can't hear it no other way. You can't learn it no other way. That's what Yahuwah has set and ordained from the foundation of the world, and that's what it's going to be. So us as being his sons and daughters, we need to make sure that we hear the word, understand that the pity that he has upon us, the deep love, mercy, and compassion that he has, and seek his face diligently so we can show forth the fruit of the land. That people know that Yahushua is the word of Elohim, that he is the Son, the only begotten Son of Elohim, as a witness and testimony against him, and that through doing so, that we have proclaimed that Yahuwah reigns. And you should have no problem proclaiming that Yahushua is the Son of Elohim, and that he sacrificed himself, resurrected from the dead, sent forth the Ruach HaKodesh, and the many other wonderful works that Yahuwah has done and worked to man and through man since the foundation of the world. We should have no shame in that. It's a beautiful thing, because they're going to see it, so just let it be known. But again, I bless everybody out the house. Y'all name me Yahushua, man. Love y'all. Appreciate your time. Yahuwah willing, we'll be on Myrtle Avenue. We'll pick it up. Prayerfully, those of you who have young seedlings, will be there at 2 o'clock, because I will begin at 2 o'clock whether your children are there or not, if there is a child present. You know what I'm saying? And I will cease at 2:30, and then we will begin with the adults. And that's how that's going to flow. Yahuwah willing, from here on out in that fashion. So with that being said, Yahuwah willing, till the next time, I bid you adieu. Shalom, man. Good rest and all those type of salutations and whatnot.